Hello everybody, welcome back to another reading. Today we're doing a bit of an unusual case in the sense that we're doing a reading on Scott Peterson rather than his wife, whom up until recently the court system assumed he had actually murdered. That's where the evidence seemed to point towards, and he was convicted about 20 years ago for that crime. Now, most people will know this case, and particularly if you're interested in true crime, it's one of the main cases that a lot of people watch, and I myself, before I started doing tarot readings, knew the case fairly well. And over the years, a lot of people have asked me to do a reading on Laci Peterson. I personally thought that the evidence was strong enough that I didn't think a reading was warranted. I don't like to do cases purely for the attention that it might get because of the name. But now recently, the LA Innocence Project claims that his constitutional rights may have been violated. That is, I believe they said his constitutional rights, so if it's a different word, then make sure to correct me. And therefore, they are trying to get him a retrial. So what we're doing today is, rather than going over the case itself, is we're going to do a reading to see whether there is going to be a retrial, and if so, what the result is going to be. So in the unlikely case that you do not know the case of Laci Peterson and Scott Peterson, they were married, and Laci was 8 months pregnant with their son Connor late December 2002 when she disappeared. She was found again in April of 2003, so several months later, in a lake. And the theory is that Scott took her life either late December 23rd or early December 24th. And then took her body out on the lake in his boat and dumped her there. At the time, he was also having a relationship with another woman whom did not know that Laci even existed or that they were expecting a child, and I do believe that she also helped the police get information on him. I think that she made a phone call which they could listen in on to try and get him to say something incriminating or something along those lines. So she was definitely not on board with Laci's disappearance from what we can tell. But even though nobody's actually seen him actually committing the crime, it seems the court of public opinion and the actual court until recently believed that he was definitely not innocent in this matter. But yeah, there might be a retrial. So we're going to take a look at this potential retrial and this case in general with the tarot. And we're going to start off with the Wise Dog Tarot, which is currently already on the table. And for any further questions, moving on to the Crow Tarot deck, which is kind of like a companion because they're made by the same person. It's this one. As per usual, I'm just going to start shuffling the deck. As soon as we have about a table full of cards, we're going to stop and take a look. So without much further ado, let's get started. Okay, let's take a look at how this might play out. We're starting off with the Six of Cups in reverse, followed by the Tower and the Hermit. All right, so we have some memories, I feel, coming up that may not be positive, that may also cause quite a bit of a change. I'm guessing this is for Scott. Things coming up that I guess they hadn't thought about for quite some time, or at least shaking something up in his world. And then we have the Hermit here, so now we're looking at a withdrawal. So potentially this whole thing may not have been as expected as he thought. Maybe this is pointing towards him initially assuming that there isn't going to be any sort of retrial, and there's old stuff being brought up from the past that's kind of like shocking to him, and then there's like the big shock over here that maybe there will be a retrial, or maybe under circumstances that he was not expecting. Something is going to be a surprise there, because I'm pretty sure he's aware of the efforts of that organization that are going to try to get him retrialed due to potential ignoring of constitutional rights. So there's that at the start. So he's aware that that's happening, but there may even still be something more shocking as well, connected to some past memories that may have been brought up, maybe something being brought in from the past who he was not expecting to hear from or anything like that. Maybe it is a person, because the next card that we see here is the Two of Cups. So there may be somebody trying to make a connection, or he is currently trying to make a connection with somebody. Could also be that there is a story that he is subscribing to. And let's see, Temperance over here, trying to stay calm and cool, probably because he knows there's going to be a lot of media attention as well during this whole thing, and making sure not to just go with the flow because the Fool is in reverse. So I feel like maybe he's getting a lawyer that is going to be doing their best, which lawyers should do that regardless of who their client is, but maybe he's just able to make a connection with them somehow. And their plan is to stay as calm, as presentable as possible, and also keep your eyes open because there are snakes afoot over here. So they are trying to be as calculated as possible. Now let's see the next row. So far it sounds pretty standard for any type of trial, but of course we're talking about somebody who had already been convicted. There are things though that are hidden by this Queen of Cups in reverse, and then we also have this Seven of Wands in reverse. So I feel like this is almost like they're sitting there and they're thinking like, we need to not talk about this and this because that's going to cause for some issues, and we'll be able to play the crowd better, and we won't get challenged quite as much with this Seven of Wands. Seven of Wands, usually people coming for your position, so maybe there are things hidden that would make people less likely to go against him in this matter. So if those things were known, then perhaps the reaction of the crowd would be different. That's kind of what I'm getting from that. I don't know if he's going to be retried in front of a jury, so maybe they are trying to play on the jury in a certain way, which is, I think, standard as well for all these jury cases, where they want to make sure that the people are as sympathetic toward their side of the story as possible. Let's take a look. We have a Knight of Cups in reverse, and we have the Queen of Pentacles over here, and then a Three of Swords. Okay, so there may be somebody who is coming into play, and maybe somebody new, because I'm looking at the Three of Swords and you see an old dog, and I think the old dog is representing Scott in this case, who has had nothing but time for the past few years. And then you see a youngish person sitting there at the bottom right who has made a connection. They appear small, but it could also be that they're at great distance, who may be now also represented by this Queen of Pentacles, who is perhaps on his side. Maybe somebody is feeling sympathetic towards him and is making a connection over here. Meanwhile, he's very much stuck in his own process, as the Knight of Cups usually is, but I think also in a way that it is very manipulative. Like, not only are they focused on themselves, they're trying to get other people to focus on him as well, like their emotions and stuff like that, try to bring him into his story. So we have some manipulation, and potentially this is going to draw in somebody whom is going to potentially be on the outside, as they call that, and therefore able to perhaps do things for him some way, maybe shorten the time that he has to do, because you are looking at the clock over there. So this looks like the early hours of potentially a retrial. Let's take a look what we get next. Like, How's this gonna go? Down. A 5 of Swords, so there is definitely some struggling happening. It could be people struggling in general, and this may be not even involving Scott himself. I feel like this is the crowd at large. There doesn't seem to be a singular focus among these crows. Usually with the 5 of Wands, you do see a group of people here. They're all kind of even. I think this may be people on the outside trying to either fight each other or take action against each other, or they may be in the court of public opinion, so to speak, trying to get their word out and protesting. Maybe there may be some protesting here because of course this is a very well-known case and a lot of people tend to have an opinion on it. Let's see, again, the 3 of Swords, but now it's in reverse, so there are quite a few people who are feeling quite negative towards him and do not wish to have any sort of contact. This may be the people who do actually know him, like personally, maybe family related. Currently just flying away. You can see one of the crows abandoning ship over there. Away from the crows, still sitting on the hilt of one of the swords. So it could be that people are signing off having anything to do with Scott during all of this, because of course people will now, I guess you've got family and people who used to be friends like that, and people around those people probably know about their connection with Scott Peterson. So if this starts to go into the media, then they may now start getting questions like, hey, did you hear about that? What do you think? Like, they may be trying to distance themselves, and this could also be a little bit of struggle there with them as well. But I feel like this is more of a public struggle for people in large, like I said, with like picket signs and stuff like that outside the courthouse or other places where they're allowed to stand. And this is maybe more in a private circle trying to distance themselves. So that's more of a public reaction. And then we have the 3 of Pentacles. Okay, we're working together, or rather working against, sorry. People, is there a card behind this? No, it's just really thick. Okay, so working against people now, people working against him potentially, and we have a Queen of Cups. All right, Queen of Pentacles was here, the practical person, and now we have a Queen of Cups. This could be the lawyer. We had the Queen of Cups over here already, so maybe the Queen of Cups over here is trying to make up for the people that are abandoning him and working against him, or the lawyer is not quite doing what they should. I don't know about that. This seems to be other people, and then suddenly we have the Queen of Cups. So let's take a look what the Queen of Cups is doing here. We saw them earlier as what I assume is his defense lawyer. So maybe we're now going to see a little bit more about them and their take on the situation. Okay, so they may have a new idea. So I'm guessing it's kind of like people may have thoughts, like people who are criminal defense attorneys may have occasionally entertained themselves by thinking, like, if I had this or that person as a client, what would my take be, like that type of thing. And I'm guessing that this attorney over here may have such a take as well. So they've got like this plan maybe to put into action that they hope will lead them to success, because the bird is flying up potentially, because they do appear to be kind of see-through. So this may be them explaining their strategy and then putting it into action. And this may also just be related to these first 3 cards over here. Like, they may have a plan to get some sympathy for him, because it is the Queen of Cups, because of all the hatred and confusion that's going on outside. Like, maybe trying to play the tiny fiddle in that sense, like, oh, look how dejected this person is, and you may already have an opinion on him, and that sort of thing. Is probably going to be difficult to put a jury together, to be honest, but that's not in the card right now, so I'm not going to go into that. Let's see what else we can get so far. Okay, not all of those are going to be necessary, but we have at least you. That's Temperance in reverse, so people are losing their temper. I'm going to shuffle these guys separately to see which one of these we need. So Temperance in reverse, Yeah, people are losing their temper. It could also be that Scott's losing their temper. It could be that the Queen of Cups is losing their temper. Maybe in a theatrical sense, they may, like, this kind of strikes me as potentially trying to get some type of favors from the court because they feel like their client's too hard done by. Something like that type of tactic, I think, is being employed here or deployed. If you hear any noises in the background, even though it's kind of a rainy night, oh, there goes one of the cards. Somebody's having a garden party and they got their music up loud, of course, because they want to have a good time. So I don't know if that's going to bleed on through. I don't think so. Usually I don't hear it afterwards during the edit, but if you do hear something, then that's what it is. And now I'm going to get the card that fell on the floor. It is the Nine of Swords. So there is concern here. There's some doom thinking as well, potentially at night when he's all alone, or potentially with a cellmate. I don't know if he has a room to himself, but in any case, when there is a quiet moment, there may be some concern rising, some anxiety rising, because I imagine even if you've been in jail for 20 years, a retrial is a whole new situation. Like, you may have eventually found a way to be incarcerated in a certain routine or whatever it is that people do to stay sane behind bars. And now there's this whole thing that's maybe also bringing memories back from the previous time that he was in court. So there's a lot of anxiety going on here. Maybe also be losing his temper here as well. Like I said earlier, maybe he's not able to keep the cool that he was hoping to get over here with the Fool in reverse back there. So maybe there is quite a bit of stress going on that's not having a great effect on Scott. The King of Pentacles in reverse. Okay, so we're potentially doing things that are not well thought out. Also, we're not spending our resources correctly. Making some bad decisions, I think. Like, he should be some type of executive decision maker in this case. And they're not being spent wisely, all the resources that he has. Maybe he's trying to pay for people to do things as well that aren't quite legal, something along those lines. That might also be this incorrectly spending of resources that's being referenced here. In any case, they're not very smart moves. And then we have the Five of Swords. Okay, so now we're arguing with people. Maybe the defense attorney, because I'm about to put it near this one. Sometimes I see like a connection with the cards across. So there may be some arguing with them. May also be arguing with other people, because of course the Five of Swords tend to have like 5 characters on the card. They may win some of these arguments, but potentially at what cost? Kind of like you can be right or you can be happy, like that type of thing. And maybe he's going to alienate some people with that arguing. This one, Page of Pentacles. All right, so now we're spending recklessly as well. Before we were spending on things that maybe not have been the best of ideas, or perhaps not totally legal. And now we're perhaps giving our money away to people who definitely do not do the right thing by us, or our time and our resources maybe spent incorrectly and very hastily, because the Page tends to be very hasty, very juvenile energy with the Page. Could also be that they're wasting evidence and opportunities for cross-examinations or things like that, whatever it is that they might be able to do during a retrial. Wasting time, being too slow with certain things. Maybe that's also where the arguing is coming from. Like, they may not be in agreement with the strategy that their defense attorney is taking, and that is going to lead to some incareful spending. Let's see if we can see anything about any results of this potential retrial. Like, what is the ultimate outcome going to be? Okay, there's a couple back here that slid out there. We've got the 5, no, the 6 of Pentacles in reverse, And the Page of Wands in reverse. Okay, so again with this reckless action, but now it's literally actions and not resources. So they might be doing things that are not very wise. And they're not going to get any charity because of it. It's also interesting to note that this charity card, or I call it a charity card because usually the Six of Pentacles is about receiving charity or potentially giving charity. It has a set of scales on it. And when it comes time to weigh what's on them, people are not charitable. So maybe they're doing things that are kind of rash, that are going to lead to a negative judgment overall. And this may just be the impression that people are getting being quite negative, and them reacting in a kind of a head over heels manner, trying to fix things, maybe some type of desperate pleas or something happening over here with the Page of Wands in reverse. We have the Page of Pentacles in reverse, okay, and more. We have that one over here as well. So we're doing things that are rash, we're spending time on things that are rash, so we're not doing very well in the ways of thinking things out. We're not following our strategy. It almost feels like over here and this, because it reminds me of, at least the case popped into my head, where somebody who had a similar vibe to Scott, I don't quite know their name, but they have a certain way about them as well. Some people call them narcissists. But in any case, this other person, decided that their own defense attorney was not good enough and they were going to represent themselves. And that, of course, turns out to be a huge mistake because you're not as smart as you think you are. Usually when you think that you can represent yourself and you're not actually a lawyer. And even a lawyer probably shouldn't represent themselves. But anyway, so this kind of feels like they have a falling out because he's anxious over here. He loses his temper with Temperance down here. I'm looking at the row underneath. And then after the fight, he goes, you know what? I can do it myself. Go away. And then over here, that's already not striking people as a very smart idea. So they're like, I don't know about that. And then we have reckless actions and reckless spending, like he's trying to represent himself in this case, or switching between lawyers because he's not satisfied, or something's going on here, it feels like. So those are not very smart moves, whatever it is. And those two are the next two cards. Let's see what this all leads to. Okay, so the public is not going to get great news from him either, or at least he's not going to say great things because the Eight of Wands is in reverse. Also slowing things down because of it. And then we have a loss of harmony in a fairly profound manner because it is the Ten of Cups in reverse. So I'm thinking that from what I'm seeing with these cards, they're going to do a lot of dumb things and spend things and time and resources incorrectly. They're going to say the wrong things, going to argue with people, even though it started off calm, like that was their strategy, to go for the calm. And he ended up not being able to do that, and that may end up leading to a negative outcome for Scott. So I feel like this is it for this reading. It's probably a little shorter than usual, but if you don't have anything more to say, I think it's just time to call it then. So that is it for Scott Peterson and his potential retrial. I hope you found it interesting. Make sure to leave your comments in the comment section below. It really helps the channel along. Also, if you'd like to like the video, that'd be great. If you want to subscribe, it's even better. We have just crossed the 1500 milestone. I will be doing like an FAQ video soonish. I'll try to do that on another day so that it doesn't replace a reading that week. So we'll have like an extra video during one of the weeks with an FAQ video. In any case, hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching, and bye bye for now.